Right. Very good morning to you all. We will start the final session. Even though I joined 7 a.m., I waited for about 5 to 6 minutes till others join because this will be an important session. Uh, Today, the whole session will be dedicated to discuss the two past papers. Uh, we'll start with the first one, and answers will be provided at the last stage of the lecture. Don't worry about the answers. You may have get the past papers, the two past papers that I am going to discuss now. It's in the classroom, Google Classroom. Uh, we'll start with the first one. I'll share the.
Sir, we can't hear you properly.
Am I audible to now?
Yes, sir.
Right. Whatever the things the both students spoke to me, I got it very properly. But make sure I am not breaking up. If I am breaking up, please let me know. The entire country is facing this internet problem because our all the MNOs, that is mobile network operators, they used to provide, say, about 100,000 internet facilities using this platform, whereas now the requirement is more than 10 to 15 times. Therefore, there should be internet breakdowns and not the line is not clear. Those kind of things you definitely will have to face because the all the MNOs they are using their platforms over capacity. Right. Okay. Hope now I am okay. We'll start with the first first paper. Do you see the screen? This is 2016 November paper. Do you see the screen, the paper?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. We'll first read the sum. You are the credit officer of Royal Bank PLC. MS Fashion Apparel Private Limited is one of the leading exporters of ready-made garments with a brand name called Butterfly, and a prime customer of your bank, and maintain satisfactory conduct current account at your bank. At present, they enjoy the following credit facilities. There are two facilities. First one is a term loan. Approved limit is 80 million. Current outstanding, that is outstanding as at 31st March 2016, 58 million. Then there is an overdraft facility, 10 million approved limit, but they have exceeded the approved limit. Now the current outstanding is 16 million. The term loan and overdraft facilities are secured by a mortgage of 90 million on freehold property owned by the company, business, the office complex and factory valued at 150. Now, the valuation is 150, mortgage over the freehold property. That is 90 million facilities, again 150 means the exposure is 60%. 90 million worth of approved facilities against 150 million worth of property, that is 60% exposure. These facilities were granted 2 years back, and term loan was for a period of 5 years. Because of the high quality of the products of MS Passion Apparel Private Limited, there is an increased demand for their brand name called Butterfly. In order to meet the requirement, the company has to purchase additional machinery at an estimated cost of 10 million and needs additional working capital of 5 million. They have kind of a 15 million requirement. The Chief Financial Officer of MS Passions Apparel Private Limited had approached your bank for additional facilities to meet their requirement. You, as the credit officer, had requested for the income statement and financial position statement of the company for the financial years ending 31/3/2014, 2015, and 2016. The summarized audited financial statement, the word audited is very important, for 2014 ending 31st March, 14, 15, and 16 are given below. The income statement is given, right? But here, important point is, even though the income statement is given, make sure that our income statement, the last point of an income statement, the last line of income statement is the net profit after tax. They have additionally given, after that, net profit after tax, they have also additionally given dividends and the retained profit. That is not the part of the income statement, but they have additionally given. We need not to worry about that. Is additional information, right? But the last line is net profit after tax, right? I am recalling this because some people, without reading the question, if they want to take net profit after, they take the retained profit after, retained profit for the year, because that is the last line, right? Therefore, you have to read carefully and take the figures. If you want to take the net profit after, take the net profit after tax, not the retained profit for the year, right? Figures are given in rupees 1,000. Rupees 1,000 is also very important. Here the turnover for 2015 means 350 million, right? Then balance sheet or the statement of financial position is also given. You have assets, equity, and current liabilities and current liabilities. You have a term loan. The figures you can check. Originally, they said at the beginning, the outstanding figures for term loan is 58 million. 2016, 31st March. OD, 16 million. You can check the figures in the balance sheet. Here, non-current liabilities, term loan, 31st March 2016, 58 million is there. And the OD also 16 million is there, bank overdraft, right? Then you are also given the following additional information. The following balances were extracted from the financial position statement as at 31/3/2013. In the statement, they have given figures from 14, 15, and 16. Here, in a note, they have given figures of 2013, assets and liabilities. All balances in thousands. They have given these figures. This is for a purpose. Definitely, this is to calculate the average balances of 2014 figures, because if you need to calculate the average balances of 2014, you need to have 2013 figures. That's why under note number 1, they have given the 2013 figures. Then number 2, you may use average balances for computation of ratios wherever necessary. 90% of the sales are on credit, 10% on cash. The company stated capital 112 million from the inception, consisting of 8 million ordinary shares. A recent valuation of the property indicated the value of 170 million. We are talking about the property that has been mortgaged. Original valuation 150. Now they have got a recent valuation 170. When we structure new facilities, we can take that also into account. the new valuation amount. Then the requirements, 20 marks given to calculate the ratio in order to assess the risk position. You have to calculate 15 ratios, at least 15 ratios, and 15 marks for ratios, 5 marks for risk analysis. Right. Number 2 requirement is, in the event of considering additional facilities, describe the type of facilities you may recommend. Number 3, suggest your recommendation to the management of MS Fashion Apparel Limited to enhance the financial position without requesting additional facilities from the bank. There is a different question. Right. Anyway, now we have read the sum. We will start in calculating ratios. Very easy to calculate and understand. We'll start with the ratios. Right. Now they have not given the exact ratios for you to calculate, but you know there are main 6 categories of ratios, that is profitability, liquidity, leverage ratio, working capital, investor relation. Likewise, under each of those categories, at least since 15 ratios are to be calculated, at least to cover 6 categories means from individual category at least 2 ratios, right? Then you will come to 12 ratios, and additional 3 ratios you can accommodate. Right. We'll start with the profitability ratios. Start with the profitability ratios. The main, even though the particular sum requires only 15, I may calculate more than 15 ratios. First one, you have to remember, last week we discussed, when it comes to ratio calculation, part A, there are ratios that you calculate only from the figures from the income statement. In that situation, you need not to take any average balances. Then the second category, there are another set of ratios. You only take into account the balance sheet figures or statement of financial position figures. There also you need not to take the average balances. But part C, the very important category, that is where you, when it comes to ratio calculation, you take some figures from the income statement, some figures from the balance sheet. In that scenario, you need to take the average figures from the balance sheet items. That is a must. Right. For you to calculate the average figures, the examiner should give the figures to calculate the average figures. Now, in these questions, it has been given, even not only 3 years, they have given 13 figures, right? If there is no possibility to calculate average figures, you can use the year-end figures. Sometimes the question paper itself say you may use year-end figures as average figures, right? That is the criteria for you to calculate the ratios. We'll start with the profitability ratios. If you take the gross profit ratio, now directly you can go to question. Take the gross profit, very easy to calculate. Take the gross profit, divided it by sales into 100. Right. Take the gross profit. I took it from the income statement, gross profit. All 3 years we can directly calculate. No need to take average because all the figures are from income statement. Here gross profits given 161, 180, 208, right? 161, 180, 208. Then take the sales figure. Sales also given 350, 420, 510, right? Then divide the gross profit by sales into 100. Divide the gross profit by sales into 100. Then you will be end up in 2014. The answer is gross profit ratio is 46%. 2015, 42.86%. 2016, 40.78. Right. We'll do the interpretation part later, but we can observe the gross profit ratio is hovering around 46% to 41%, but there is a small decrease, but we'll have some remarks on that. Right. Any questions before we move on to the next category? Any questions? If you have any questions, you can ask. මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා අහන්න පුළුවන්. Right. Okay. We'll move on. Then next ratio I am going to calculate. I'll give this answer sheet at the later stage of the lecture. I'll ask IBSL official to upload it. Then net profit ratio, same calculation. Instead of gross profit, you have to take the instead of gross profit, you have to take the net profit, right? Net profit, when you are taking the net profit after tax. Here, don't take any other thing, right? Here, net profit after tax, this line. Profit after tax. 39,400, 44,800, 51,200. Right? 39,400, 44,800, 51,200. Sales already you have taken in the previous calculations. Divide the net profit by sales into 100. Any questions? The answers are 11%, 10.67, 10.08. That is around 10-11% net profit ratio. Right, we'll do the interpretation part at the later stage. Very easy to calculate, very easy to understand. Don't make any mistakes when it comes to these small calculations, right? Right. Next one is return on equity, right? Here answer has been given, but I want first you to calculate this ratio. Don't look at this. First you calculate this, taking into account the how do you calculate net profit after tax divided by average equity, right? Since net profit is from income statement, equity is from the balance sheet, we have to take the balance sheet figure as an average. Right? Go to your income statement, go to your balance sheet and calculate the return on equity. Don't look at the answers. Make sure that you also get these answers. I'll give 1 or 2 minutes. Any questions? Any difficulty in calculating this ratio?
In 2014 beginning equity එක ගත්තේ කොතනින්ද sir?
First we want to take the net profit after. ඒකේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ නේද? net profit after tax කෙලින්ම straight forward. කලින් අපි calculation එකකට ගත්තානේ net profit ratio හදන විදිහට. එතකොට මේ 39400 44800 ඒ ටික ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැති වෙන්න ඕනි කාටවත්. මේ පළවෙනි line එක. right? එතකොට average equity අපි හදාගන්න equity කියලා කියන්නේ මොනවද? Equity means stated capital plus all the reserves. If you go to this particular question, they have under equity, they have stated capital and the retained earnings only, right? If you take 2014 figures, equity means 115,400, 115,400. 2015, 128,200. 2016, 139,400, right? Total equity means stated capital plus all the reserves. This company has only the retained profit, that is only the reserve they have. Right. Now, question is, for 2014, the beginning equity is 2013 equity. 2013 equity එක කීයද කියන එක තමයි 2014 අපි average equity හොයනකොට beginning equity එකයි ending equity. Ending equity එක මේ 115,400 කියන එක අපි දන්නවා. ඒක කොහොමද ගත්තේ? අපිට මේකේ තියෙනවා මෙතන 115,400 කියලා 2014 figures වල. 115,400යි 128,200යි 139,400යි. ඒ තුනම තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේක දාගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. ඊළඟට beginning equity 2014. ඒ කියන්නේ 2013 ending equity එක. ඒක අපිට ගන්න දීලා තිබ්බා note එකක. කොහොමද ඒක ගන්නෙ? මේකේ තියෙනවා අපිට ගාණ කියනවා එක තැනක අවුරුද්ද මුලින් ඉඳලා මේ කම්පැනි පටන් ගත්ත දවසින් ඉඳන්ම අපේ stated capital එක කීයද කියලාද? 112යි කියලා මිලියන. මිලියන 112යි කියලා තියෙනවා. And 2013 ending retained earning තිබිලා තියෙනවා loss එකක් තියලා තියෙනවා 20000ක. thousands වලින් 20000ක. දැන් අපේ beginning equity එක වෙන්නේ 2013 ending equity එක 112යි මිලියන. මෙතනදී අපිට අඩු කරන්න වෙනවා retained earning loss එකක් තියෙන නිසා. ඒත් 112න් මිලියන 20ක් අඩු කරාම මේ උත්තරේ තමයි අපි මෙතනට දාලා තියෙන්නේ 92000යි කියලා. right. එතකොට 2014 වල ending equity එක 15 වල beginning equity වල මේ 115,400 15 වල beginning equity කියලා. 2015 වල ending equity එක 16 වල beginning equity වල 128යි. හරි. 92000 ගත්ත විදිහ ගැන කාට හරි වෙන ගැටලු තියෙනවද? හරිද නැත්තම්? ප්‍රශ්නේ අපේ කෙනාට හරිද උත්තරේ?
Very clear sir.
හරි. Any other questions? Then you take the beginning, ending plus, then divided it by 2, then you have the average equity. Once you calculate this average equity figure, this is 137,700, 121,800, 133,800. This figure can be used for several instances in the ratio calculation in this particular sum also. I calculate කර යන්න එපා මේ average equity දෙක සැරයක් calculate කරලා පස්සේ ඒක ඕන තැනකට use කරන්න පුළුවන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට. Right? Then you divide the net profit after tax by average equity into 100. Then you have ROE, return on equity figures of 37.99, 36.78, 38.27. Approximately around 38% return on equity. Very good company. Right. We'll move on to the next ratio category and the profitability. That is return on capital employed. Here also, people make many mistakes when calculating this ratio. You have to correctly understand what is the formula. Formula is net profit before tax, before interest. Net profit before tax and before interest. Right? If you go to the exam, this question, net profit before tax is given. Before tax and before interest, kelima gannak puluwan onna. But here, net profit before tax, 57,600. Oh, you can directly take here, profit before tax and interest, 69,000. This figure, you can directly take, right? I took the before tax figure and add the interest, but this is very straightforward. 69,73 in the question paper, very straightforward. 69,000, 73,000, 81,000. Right? You have to take that figure. Then you have to take the average of equity capital and long-term debt capital. Average of equity capital and long-term debt capital. Why we take the averages? Because one figure from the income statement and one figure from the balance sheet. Balance sheet figure should be average one according to that C category ratio. Right? Now you have already calculated the average. You have already calculated the average equity capital in the previous ratio calculation, right? In the previous ratio calculation here, average equity already calculated. Use that figure, average equity, right? I directly took that figure. Then you need to calculate the average long-term debt capital. Average long-term debt capital, right? Here, go to your balance sheet. What is the long-term debt capital here? You have only the term loan, right? How do you calculate average figures? Here, 2014, the answer is 2014 answer is 65,000. How do you arrive at 65,000? 2014 you have 80,000. 2013, what is the figure? 50,000. Yeah. 2013 50,000, 2014 80,000. 80,000 plus 50,000, 130,000, divided it by 2, 65,000. Here I took 65,000 for 2014. Then if I go to this 74 figure, how do we arrive at that figure 74? 2015 68, 2014 80,000. Take the total, that is 148,000. 148 divided by 2, 74,000. 74,000. ඇත්ත අතර 1000. ඒක තමයි මෙතනට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් කොහොමද මේ 63000 ගත්තේ? 63000 ගත්තේ 2016 58,000 15 මෙන්න මේ දෙකේ average එක. 68යි 58යි 110යි 126යි 126 දෙකට බෙදුවම 63යි. එහෙනම් තමයි මේ 63000 ආවේ. right? එතකොට ඒවා මේ මොනවාද ratio analysis නේ සරල ගණිතය, right? එතකොට you have average equity capital, you have average long term debt capital, then take the total, then you have average capital employed 168,700, 195,800, 196,800. Divide the net profit before tax before interest figure by average capital employed. Then you have 41%, 37%, 41%. Return on capital employed. Any questions? ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද මොන හරි?
සර් ඉන්ට්‍රස්ට් එක ගන්න
මොකද්ද?
ඉන්ට්‍රස්ට් එක ගන්න
නෑ ඉන්ට්‍රස්ට් එක ගන්න ඕනේ නෑ. මම කිව්වේ දැන් මේකේ තියෙන්නේ අපිට ඕනේ උත්තරේ මොකද්ද? net profit before tax before interest කියලා. දැන් අපේ මේ P&L එකට ගියාම net profit before tax before interest කියන එක කෙලින්ම ගෙඩි පිටින්ම දීලා තියෙනවා. මේ තියෙන්නේ profit before interest and tax. දැන් මම අර ඒකේ අර වැඩිපුර වැඩක් කරලා තිබ්බට මම කෝ ඒක ඕනෙන්නේ නැහැ. before tax එක අරගෙන ඒකට interest එක add කරන එක එහෙම කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මෙන්න මේක කෙලින්ම ගානේ කෙලින්ම දීලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට ආයේ ඒ ෆිගර් එකෙන්ම කෙලින්ම ගත්තාම හරි. මේ 69000 කියලා කියන්නේ net profit before tax before interest. ඒක කෙලින්ම ගානේ දීලා තියෙනවා. මේ තියෙන ගානේ දීලා තියෙන net profit before tax before interest කියලා.
yes sir
එතකොට ආයේ මේ පුත් කරන්න දෙයක්වත් නැහැ. Right. Any other questions? We'll move on to the next category, that is return on asset. Right? Return on asset. I said return on asset ratio can be computed as a before tax ratio or after tax ratio. Right? Normally we take after tax ratio. Since this is also C category ratio, that is one item from the income statement, one item from the balance sheet. The item from the balance sheet should be an average one. We have to take the net profit after tax. It is given very straightforward, net profit after tax. Take the average assets. Average asset figure, total assets beginning, total assets ending. Now, if you take 2014 total asset beginning figure, this 187,700, we have to take it from the here, and then from the notes 180,700. From the note number 1, they have given the total asset figure 2013 end. That is 2014 beginning figure. 2000 ending figures. 14, 15, 16, it is, we can take it from the given balance sheet. Right? Total assets here, 228,500, 241 and 252. Right. Now we have to calculate, take the total of total assets, beginning and ending, divided it by 2, divide the net profit after tax by average asset figure. Then you have 19.26, 19.08, 20.77. Any questions? මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද? මේක වැඩි දැනගත්තොත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මම හිතන්නේ දෙන වෙලාව ගොඩාක් ඉතුරු කරගන්න පුළුවන් සහ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මුලින්ම හදලා මේක අනිත් ඉවර කරගන්න පුළුවන් දේශියෙම. Right. Interpretation part we'll discuss later. Right. මේක මම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට දෙනවා ඉස්සෙල්ලාම බලන්න විනාඩියක් දෙකක් අරගෙන හදලා කියන්න බලන්න. Interest cover. Interest cover. formula එකට ගියොත් interest cover කියලා කියන්නේ net profit before tax එකට add කරන්න ඕනේ interest. ඒ figure එකත් අර එලින්ම දීලා තියෙනවා අපිට ආයේ මේ විදිහට මේ line දෙකකින් හොයාගන්න ඕනේ net profit before tax plus interest කියන එක එලින්ම දීලා තියෙනවා ගන්න. ඒතර 69000යි 73000යි 81000යි. ඒකයි බෙදන්න තියෙන්නේ interest figure එකේ. දැන් උඩ දාපු 12600 ම තමයි මෙතනත් ආයි දාලා තියෙන්නේ. This ratio interpreted as number of times. Now, we take 2014, number of times is 5.48, that is almost 5 times. Then 15, 4.5 times, 16, 3.8. Now it is getting reduced. What is your opinion on interest cover? We'll have an interpretation later. What about this company, interest cover? Whether it is good or bad? Interest cover getting reduced 2014 to 2016. That is your opinion. Last week we discussed whether this is good or bad for the company. Interest cover.
net profit එකෙන් interest එක cover වෙන ගාන අඩු වෙන හින්දා sir මේක bad නේද?
ඔව් අනිත් කට්ටිය good or bad. දැන් මේවා දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න විසඳගෙන යන්න විභාගෙට ගියාම ඔය ප්‍රශ්න තියාගන්න එපා bad. කෙනෙක් දාලා තියෙනවා bad කියලා. අනිත් කට්ටිය හිතේ තියෙන එක උත්තරේ දැන් කොහොමද good the bad කියලා තමන්ම දැනගන්න ඕනේ නැත්නම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට bad වෙයි විභාගෙදී. right? එතකොට මේක number of times අඩු වෙන්න හොඳ නැහැ. bad. This ratio means using your profit the number of times you can repay the interest. If the number of times is higher and higher, it's good for the company. But in this particular company, the number of times is getting reduced. We have to have a point there on this interest cover. Now 5.5, now it has been reduced to 3.9. Right? There is a bad thing in respect of interest cover ratio. on කරලා තියෙනවා ඒක ඔෆ් කරා නම් හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහන්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න. තාම මයික් එක on කරගෙන ඉන්නේ. ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඔයගොල්ලෝ අහන්න නැත්නම් මයික් එක ඔෆ් කරන්න. right. ඊළඟ ratio එකට අපි යමු. Now those are the profitability ratios. We have actually calculated about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ratios under profitability. We calculated 6 ratios under profitability, even though requirement is 15 ratios for all the categories. Right. Then we'll move on to the liquidity ratio. Very straightforward, easy to calculate. First one is the current ratio. You take your current assets, you take your current liabilities. As against the current liabilities, what is your current assets, right? As a proportion, we interpret this ratio. Go to balance sheet directly. No need to take any averages since all two figures are from the balance sheet. Very straightforward. Current assets and current liabilities. Here, current assets given 51,500. 68,084. Current liabilities you have 33,100, 44,800, 54,600, right? Then you divide your current assets by current liabilities. In 2014 it is 1:1.56. 2015 1:1.52. 2016 1:1.54. It's around 1:1.5 times. but the standard is we required 1:2 ratio in terms of current assets as against the current liabilities. But this is a kind of acceptable situation. Then the second ratio under liquidity, that is quick asset ratio, you take inventories out of current assets. Quick asset ratio, get the current assets, deduct the inventories, and you have quick assets. Quick asset divided by current liabilities, you can have the quick asset ratio. It is almost 1:1, right? All 3 years, it's almost 1:1, very acceptable. Any questions on the liquidity? මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද liquidity ratios ගැන? Right, we'll move on to the next category, that is working capital ratios. Anyway, individual these ratios, we have to have a separate interpretation part, which will be discussed at the later stage. First, we take the under working capital inventories. I skip this slide. This is inventory turnover. Instead, I will calculate the inventory turnover period. මේකත් ගොඩක් කට්ටිය වරද්දනවා. Now here, what is required is under inventory turnover period, you have to take the cost of sales, that is from the income statement. Then you have to take the average inventory, that is from the balance sheet. You divide the average inventory by cost of sales and into 365, then you have your average inventory turnover period. Now the interpretation is how long your inventories will be as inventories without being converted into sales, right? Cost of sales, directly you can take from the income statement, it is given. Cost of sales here, 189,240 and 302 is given, right? Then average inventory, for you to calculate 2014 average inventory, you have to go to the node number 1 in the sum, take the 2013 average inventory figure. Here it is given inventory 15,500. Using that figure, other figures you can take, it's already there in the balance sheet. Inventory figures are given here, 18,500, 24,000 and 32,000. Then you take the total divided by 2. And you have average inventory, you have cost of sales, divide the average inventory by cost of sales into 365. You have these average inventory period figures, that is 33 days, 32 days, 34 days. That is approximately this company maintain their stocks at least for 1 month without them being converted into sales. But විකිනෙන්නේ නැතුව අඩුම ගානේ මාසයක ආසන්න කාලයක් මේ කම්පැනි තියෙනවා. ඒක තමයි මේ රේෂියෝ එකේ තේරුම. මොන හරි ඉෂුව එකක් තියෙනවද? ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද මොන හරි? Right. Payment and debtors collection period එකට it's very straightforward. The calculation is average debtors divided by credit sales into 365. Now, in the question, they say under note number 3, 90% of the sales are on credit basis. 90% of the sales are on credit basis. Then you have to take the sales figure, take the 90% here, 350,000, 420,000, 510,000. Take the 90% of those amounts and take the credit sales. Now, credit sales for 2014, that is 90% of the original figures given, that is 315, 2015, 378, 16, 459. Then average debtors, beginning debtors and ending debtors. Ending debtors you have straight away, you can take these figures from the balance sheet, right? Is 27,000, 36,042. It is in the balance sheet here. Receivables 27,000, 36,043. And the beginning debtors of 2014, that is ending debtors of 2013, here given 25,000 in the note number 1. Note number 1. Right? කොට ඒ දෙක එකතු කරලා දෙකෙන් බෙදලා average debtors හොයාගන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට what you need to do is average debtors divided by credit sales into 365. Now answers are 30 days, 30 days and 31 days. Now normally it says we have given our debtors to repay the debt within a 1 month time period. මාසයක් දෙන අපේ debtors ලට ගෙවන්න. Right, any questions? Right. ඊළඟ එක මම හදන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තියෙනවා. මේ උත්තරේ මම මේ පෙන්නලා තියෙනවා. You have to go through the answer. How do you calculate these figures? Creditors payment period. ඔයගොල්ලෝ පොඩ්ඩක් කල්පනා කරලා බලන්න. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ප්‍රශ්නක් තියෙන්න පුළුවන් මේක කොහොමද ගත්තේ කියලා. right. බලන්නකෝ විනාඩි කිහිපයක් දෙන්න ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න මේක ප්‍රශ්නෙට උත්තර ටික ආවේ කොහොමද කියලා. ඔයගොල්ලන්ගෙන් මම ප්‍රශ්නත් අහනවා. කොමන්ට් ප්‍රශ්නයක්ද නැත්නම් මම කරගෙන යන්නද මොකද?
රස අහනවා සර් හරි. අපට අහනවා.
Right, okay. Now if you take this the creditors payment period, now the formula is average creditors divided by purchases into 365. Now the question is in the question paper the purchases figure has not been given. Now the very easy thing is if you have not been given the purchases figure, you can either take the cost of sales figure instead of purchases, because the bulk of the cost of sales are being represented by the purchases. But here you cannot do that because you are given all the things to calculate the purchases figure. Now normally cost of sales we calculate by adding purchases to the opening stock and deducting the closing stock, right? By adding purchases to the opening stock and deducting the closing stock, you can arrive at the cost of sales figures. Now here the purchases figure has not been appearing in the income statement, right? But we have given all the figures to calculate the purchases. How do you calculate? Normally, when you are calculating the cost of sales, you add opening stock to purchases and deduct the closing stock. Now you have to do the other way around. Now you have given the cost of sales and you have given the inventories beginning and inventories ending for opening stock and the closing stock. Then you have to instead of adding to inventories beginning, you have to deduct the inventory beginning. Instead of normally you deduct the closing inventories, you have to add the closing inventories. You can calculate the purchases figure. Now here, what I did is using the cost of sales, using the inventory beginning, using the inventories ending, calculate the purchases first, right? But අපි මේක කරලා තියෙන්නේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මේ cost of sales තමයි අපිට හොයන්න වෙන්නේ. අපි ඒකෙදි කරන්නේ මොකද්ද? Opening stock එකට purchases එකතු කරලා closing stock එක අඩු කරනවා. දැන් අපිට cost of sales දීලා තියෙන නිසා ගානේ අපිට තියෙන්නේ cost of sales වලින් inventory beginning කියන එක අඩු කරලා inventory ending කියන එක එකතු කරන්න තියෙනවා. අනිත් පැත්තට හදාගෙන යන්න තියෙනවා. Right? So අපිට arrive වෙන්න පුළුවන් you have figures of 2014 purchases 192, 15 to 45 500, 16 310,000. Right? Now other thing is average creditors. Creditors ending figures are given in the balance sheet, right? Very straightforward. Here under current liabilities, trade payables 24,400, 32,200, 38,600. The beginning one of beginning creditors of 2040, it's given in under notes. Trade payable here 22,700, 22,700. එතකොට 2014 වල ending එක තමයි 15 වල beginning එක වෙන්නේ creditors ලා. 15 වල ending 32,200 තමයි 16 වල 32,200 beginning වෙන්නේ. Average creditors හදන්න. The formula එක තියෙන්නේ average creditor divided by purchases. Purchases you have already now you have found into 365. The answers are 44 days, 42 days and 42 days. Any questions under this creditors payment period? මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද? Purchases දුන්නේ නැහැ කියලා අතාරින්න බෑ. අපිට මේම purchases හොයාගන්න පුළුවන් වුණේ අනිත් figures දීලා තිබ්බ හින්දා. Right, okay, we'll move on.
Sir,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a question. Do we
Yeah,
take all purchases as credit purchases?
Sorry?
Do we take all purchases as credit
Yes,
purchases?
yes. That is a very good question. I'm also going to brief on that. If the sum is silent about it, the accurate figure is you have to take the credit purchases. But in the question paper, there's nothing talk about credit purchases. Therefore, you have to take 100% purchases are on credit basis. Similar application you can take for also sales. If now in the question paper they have said 90% of the sales are credit basis. If it is not given, you have to assume that all the sales are on credit basis. Don't take 50%, 75%. Take 100% as credit sales. හරි විදියට ගන්නවා නම් credit purchases තමයි ගන්න ඕනේ. Credit purchases කියලා මේ ගානේ කතා කරලා නැති නිසා අපි purchases ඔක්කොම credit basis උනායි කියලා තමයි හිතලා තියෙන්නේ. Sales වලට ගානේ දීලා තියෙන හින්දා අපි 90% ගත්තේ. ගානේ දීලා තිබ්බේ නැත්නම් අපිට මුකුත්ම කියලා තිබ්බේ නැත්නම් ගානේ ඔය credit මෙච්චරයි එහෙම කියලා තිබ්බේ නැත්නම් 100%ක්ම credit උනා හැටියට තමයි සලකන්න වෙන්නේ. Any other questions? Right, we'll move on. Then we'll come to the efficiency ratios. First one, asset turnover ratio. Very straightforward, these ratios. You have to take turnover and the asset figures. Since this is a C category ratio, asset figures should be, we have to use average figures. First one is the total asset turnover ratio. Turnover, directly you take from the income statement. Average total assets, we have already taken this figure. You can use those figures also in the calculation. Total assets average කියන එක කලින් එකක use කරා ඔයගොල්ලෝ. ඒ නිසා ඒ figure එක මම use කරා කියලා මම ලකුණු කපන්නේ නැහැ. right? අපි කලින් තැනක හදලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ආයේ මේක beginning assets ආයේ ending assets කියලා ලියන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. කලින් ඔයගොල්ලෝ හදලා තියෙනවනේ average total assets මේකයි කියලා කලින් ratio එක ඒ figure එක කෙලින්ම අරගත්තට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. right? විභාගෙදී මම බලන්නේ පුළුවන් තරම් ලකුණු දීලා ඔයගොල්ලෝ පාස් කරන්න. ඔයගොල්ලෝ පුළුවන් තරම් try කරනවා විභාගෙන් fail වෙන්න. දැන් මේ ඊයේ පෙරේදත් මම papers වගේක් බැලුවා. ඒකෙදිත් ඔක්කොම වගේ නෙමෙයි සෑහෙන පිරිස 10ක් 15ක් වගේ පිරිසක් සෑහෙන try එකක් දෙනවා fail වෙන්න. Right. If you take this the final figure 1.71, 1.79 to this is number of times. The question is number of times whether you accept that as when it is increase or decreasing. Total assets turnover එක වැඩි වෙනවා නම් number of times හොඳ අඩු වෙනවා නම් හොඳ. Using your total assets, the turnover you generated. If it is more and more, it will be beneficial for the entity. Using lower total asset figure, if you can generate higher turnover, that is the better. Right? If the number is higher and higher, this ratio is good for the company. That is called efficiency ratio. Then efficiency ratio number 2, non-current assets to equity. Now, since both figures are from the balance sheet, no need to take any average figure. We have to take non-current assets directly from the balance sheet, right? Non-current assets here. These are the figures, non-current assets. 177, 173, 168. Then shareholder equity is also straightforward from the balance sheet. 115, 400, 128, 200, 139, 400. Then divide the non-current assets using the shareholder equity. This is a kind of a comparison as against your equity. What is your non-current assets portion? If it is more, it's better. Because non-current assets are the long-term assets that you generate for your income generation activity. Compared to equity, if you do have a higher amount of non-current, that is better. Right. Then we'll move on to the capital structure ratios, that is gearing ratios. මේවා තමයි ගොඩක් කට්ටිය වරද්දන ratios, but very straightforward. But most of the people, they try to make mistakes in this category, gearing ratio 1 and gearing ratio 2. අපි දෙක ඉස්සෙල්ලා බලලා ඉමු what is the formula. First one is the gearing ratio 1, debt equity ratio. Against your debt, what is your equity capital? Now, this is a kind of a ratio you take into account the balance between the equity capital and long-term debt capital, right? If the ratio is more than 1, we say high gear. If the ratio is less than 1, we say low gear, right? එතකොට equity capital 100ක් තියෙනවා නම් debt capital තියෙන්නේ 50 නම් ඒකේ තේරුම අපේ equity capital වැඩි කියන එක. නිකන් හරි equity capital 100ක් තියෙනකොට debt capital 150ක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒකේ තේරුම equity capital වැඩි කියන එක. right. ඒකට මේ capital structure ගැන තමයි මේකේ worry එක තියෙන්නේ. Now if you go to this particular sum, the long term debt straightforward given 80,000, 68,000, 58,000 long term debts, right? In equity capital, we have already taken the equity capital in the previous ratios: 115 400, 128 20, 128 200, 139 400. Now divide the long term debt by equity. Now you will be end up in 0.69, 0.53, 0.42. All are less than 1. Therefore, we can conclude low geared company. Then when it comes to the second gearing ratio, the difference is you have to take for debt not only the long term, short term also borrowings you have to take, and take the total debt capital. Then the other part, instead of equity capital, we take the total capital. To take the total capital, what is your debt capital? Right? In the first ratio, we took only the long-term debt, whereas in the second ratio, we take long-term debt plus the short-term debt capital also. Right? We'll see how do we calculate that one. First, long-term debt, 80,000, 68, that is loan in this particular sum. Then we'll go to the balance sheet. Then when it comes to short-term debt, don't take these creditors, take only the overdraft. Right? Take only the overdraft. Creditors are not a kind of a debt that is part and parcel of the normal course of business. Therefore, only take the bank facilities, that is short-term bank facilities. We have here in this particular sum, bank overdraft, 9,000, 12,600, 16,000. Right. Then you have total debt capital. Take the total, short-term plus long-term. We have total debt capital. Equity capital you have already have. Then by adding the equity capital, you can calculate the total capital. Then divide the total debt capital by total capital. That is, if you take 2014 figures, 89,000 divided by 204,400. In 2015, 80,600 divided by 208,800. Then you have 0.44, 0.39, 0.35. If it is less than 0.5, we can say low geared company. මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද මේ gearing ratio 1 එකටයි 2 එකටයි දාලා? ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් මෙතනදීම ක්ලියර් කරගෙන යන්න. ගොඩක් කට්ටිය වරද්ද ගන්නවා මේ gearing ratio 1 and 2 හදන්න ගිහිල්ලා.
The total capital එක
ඔව්. එතකොට total capital කියන concept එකේ එන්නේ gearing ratio 2 එකේදී. එතකොට total capital carry දෙකකින් comprise වෙනවා. එකක් තමයි total debt capital, total equity capital. ඒත් equity capital එක already අපි දන්නවා ඒකේ කිසි වෙනසක් නැහැ. तर total debt capital එක second ratio එකේදී අපි අර long term debt වලට අමතරව මොන හරි short term තියෙනවා නම් facilities අරගෙන තියෙනවා නම් banks වලින් ඒවත් ගන්නවා. දැන් මේ ගානේ එහෙම අරගෙන තිබ්බ OD එක තිබ්බා. तर long term debt එකට අමතරව short term debt එකකුත් අපි දැම්මා. දාලා total debt capital කියන එක අපි අරගත්තා ඒ විදිහට. तर total debt capital plus total equity capital ඒක තමයි අපේ totalම capital එක වෙන්නේ. the total capital එකෙන් තමයි බෙදන්නේ total debt capital එක මේ ratio එක හදන්නේ. ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද? කෙනෙක් අහලා තියෙනවා sir why can't we take the trade payable as short term debt? Short term අපි debt capital හැටියට අපි ගන්නෙ නෑ. ඒක අර working capital requirement එකක් හැටියට day to day අපි පාවිච්චි කරන දෙයක් හැටියට තමයි ඒක ගන්නෙ. ඒකට එහෙම බැලුවොත් එහෙම තව තියෙනවා accrued expenses තියෙනවා. තව අපි හිතන්නකෝ wages payable ඒ වගේ දේවලුත් අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒවා අර financing sources හැටියට අපි සලකන්නේ නෑ මේ debt capital එකේ. banking facilities තියෙනවා short term ඒවා තමයි අපි ගන්න. short term loans තිබ්බොත් එහෙම overdraft තිබ්බොත් ඒ වගේ විතරයි අපි ගන්නෙ මේ debt capital එකක් හැටියට. right. ප්‍රශ්න නැත්නම් අපි යමු ඉස්සරහට. Then we'll move on to the investor relation ratios. First one is the earning per share. Now you know how to calculate earning per share. Net profit after tax divided by number of ordinary shares. Number of ordinary shares. Net profit after tax you can straight away get from the income statement. Now මේ වලදී ළමයි කරන mistake එක මම මේ කියන්නේ. net profit after tax කිව්වම ගොඩක් කට්ටිය මේ ගන්න මේකේ අන්තිම උත්තරේ තියෙන retain profit after for the year කියන එන්නේ figures ටික තමයි අරගෙන තියෙන්නේ සමහරව. net profit after tax කියලා වෙනම line එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒක ගන්න ඕනේ. ඒකට මේ income statement එකේ අන්තිම figure එක අරගෙන හරියන්නේ නැහැ. right? Then number of ordinary shares in the question paper they say under point number 4, the company's stated capital is 120 million. From the inception consists of 8 million ordinary shares. Right. මෙන්න මෙතනදී ගොඩක් කට්ටිය කරන බොහෝම මේ negligence ඒවට අපි කියන්නේ negligence කියලා කියන්නේ කම්මැලිකමට කරන mistakes. මේ උඩ figures ටික තියෙන්නේ 39400 කියලා කියන්නේ කොහොමද මේකේ ඇත්තටම රුපියල් වටිනාකම කියන්නේ 39400 කියලා මේ ගානට අනුව ඇත්තටම රුපියල් වටිනාකම මේ ගාන දීලා තියෙන්නේ දහස් වලින් නිසා මෙතන sorry මෙතින් දහස් වලින් නිසා 39400 කියලා කියන්නේ මේ ෆිගර් එකේ වටිනාකම ඇත්තටම රුපියල් වටිනාකම මිලියන 39යි ලක්ෂ 4යි right මිලියන 39යි ලක්ෂ 4යි. ඒකට අපි මේක දහස් වලින් ලියනවා නම් 39යි 400 තමයි දාලා තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට 39යි 400 දහස් වලින් හරි. ඒ වගේම ordinary shares කියලා 8 million තියෙනවනේ. දැන් සමහරුන්ට මේවා ඔළුවට වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ. මේවා ඇත්තටම මේ ක්‍රෙඩිට් නෙමෙයි ක්‍රෙඩිට් ඔයගොල්ලෝ ක්‍රෙඩිට් දැනුම නෙමෙයි මේවා සාමාන්‍ය දැනීම. දැන් මෙතන මේ 8 million ordinary shares කියන එක ගන්නකොට උඩ ෆිගර් එක අපි දහස් වලින් නම් ලියලා තියෙන්නේ මෙතනත් ගන්න ඕනේ කොහමද? දහස් වලින්. මෙතන සමහරව ලියනවා කොහමද? 8000 වෙනුවට 8 million කියලා ලියනවා. ලියලා 39යි 400 බෙදනවා 8 million වලින්. 8.6න් බෙදෙනවා. එතකොට මේ උත්තරේ එනවා 0.0.0.493යි කියලා. එතකොට ඒක හරියද? අපි ඔයගොල්ලෝ කරන mistakes කියන්නේ විභාගෙදී. right? ඒ උඩ ෆිගර් එක දහස් වලින් ලියලා එහෙනම් ඔයා මෙතන 8000 ලියනවා නම් මේ උඩ ෆිගර් එකට තව 0.3ක් දාන්න ඕනේ. 39400 හැපැත්තෙන් 0.3ක් දාලා මෙතන 8000 ලිව්වට කමක් නැහැ. ඒවට කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය දැනීම. ඒව මේ ක්‍රෙඩිට් වත් accounting වත් ඔයගොල්ලෝගේ credit ratio analysis වත් නෙමෙයි. right? එතන මේ උත්තරේ එනවා අමුතු ಜಾති උත්තරයක් එන්නේ. රුපියල් 4.93 වෙනුවට එනවා රුපියල් 0.00000493 කියලා. ඒක හරිද? ඒවෙන් තමයි ෆේල් වෙන්නේ ළමයි. right? මගව නෑ ඇත්තට මෙතන මම මේ ෆොටෝ එකක් පෙන්නන්න තිබ්බ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ගහලා මේකේ මේ පේපර් එකක් නෑ මගේ අතේ. එහෙම කරපු අයියා කෙනෙක්ගේ අක්ක කෙනෙක්ගේ එකක් පෙන්නන්න තිබ්බා. ඒගොල්ලෝ try එක දෙන විදිය විභාගේ ෆේල් වෙනවා. right? Earning per share other years the same number of shares are there. 4 rupees 93, 5 rupees 60, 6 rupees and 4 rupees. Increase in trend. We'll do the interpretation at a later stage. මොනවාරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද earning per share සම්බන්ධයෙන්? Very straightforward. Then dividend per share. Dividend අපි කීයද කියලා ගන්න පුළුවන් කෙලිම question paper එකකින්. ඉතින් dividend දීලා තිනවා 16,000, 32,000, 40,000. The number of දැන් උදාර 8,000 වෙනුවට මෙතන 8 million ලියපු එක්කෙනා දැන් dividend per share කියනොත් ලකුණු අඩු කරගන්නවා. දැන් මෙතනත් ආයේ 8,000 ලියන 8,000 වෙනුවට ලියනවා 8 million එක. තව බිඳු 3ක් දාගෙන බෙදනවා 16,000 බෙදනවා 8.6න්. එතකොට මේ උත්තරේ එනවා 0.0222 කියලා. Right. Dividend per share very straightforward. Total dividend divided by number of holding shares. 2 rupees per share, 4 rupees per share, 5 rupees per share for the 3 years. Right. Then dividend cover. You take the net profit after tax, divided it by total dividend, then you have number of times. Higher the number of times, better it is. එන අපේ profit එක use කරලා කොච්චර සැරයක් dividends ගෙවන්න පුළුවන්ද කියන එක තමයි මේ dividend cover එකේදී කියන්නේ. ඒතර පළවෙනි අවුරුද්දේදී 2.4යි ආය සැරයක් ගෙවන්න පුළුවන්. දෙවෙනි අවුරුද්දට ආපම 1.4 සැරයක් විතරයි ගෙවන්න පුළුවන්. අන්තිම අවුරුද්දට ආපම 1.28ක සැරයක් විතරයි ගෙවන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකට හේතුව profit එකත් වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් මේ dividend ගාන වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන ඔක්කොටම වැඩි. right? dividend ගාන 16,000, 32,000, 40,000 වෙලා තියෙනවා. profit එක වැඩි වෙන වේගයට වඩා වැඩි වේගයකින් dividend ගෙවන ගාන වැඩි කරලා තියෙනවා මේ ආයතනය. right. Now we have calculated all the ratios. Now this is the very important part. Now we are going to interpret. We summarize the profitability ratios what we have calculated. Gross profit, net profit, ROE, ROCE, interest cover. We have some important points to say. Now this is how do you present your findings in the exam also, make a summary of it and do the interpretation. Right. First, profitability, these are the ratios. Then we calculated the under working capital and efficiencies, 2 categories in one sheet, that is stock turnover period, debtors collection period, creditors payment period, then asset turnover and non-current assets to equity. Then under liquidity and gearing, we covered 2 ratios each under each category. That is current ratio, quick asset ratio under liquidity, and gearing ratios, 2 gearing ratios under capital structure ratios. Then finally, we had this shareholder relation or investor relation ratios, under which we calculate 3 ratios. EPS, EPS and dividend cover. Now we'll see the analysis. Right. When it comes to profitability, these are some salient points. It may be seen that both GP and NP ratios have decreased over the last 3 financial years. Now there is a decrease in trend. This may be attributed to the fact that cost escalating at a higher pace compared to sales. Management should take steps to control cost or increase price to restore the higher GP ratio. Now there is a decrease in trend. The management should focus whether it is due to their inefficiencies or higher prices in cost of sales. And if it is so, they accordingly they have to increase some prices in the sales. Then number 2, it may be noted both ROE and ROC, although decline in 15, improved in 16 due to decline in borrowings. Right? Now, these two ratios very good in terms of the figures, interest rate of this company. ROCE and ROCE and ROE both are in very increasing trend. Interest cover decline over the period, but above acceptable level. Interest cover also decline. That is not acceptable, but it is within a kind of a range. Now, if you go to the figures here, interest cover number of times from 5.48 to 3.89. You have to see whether it is permanent or not, but will acceptable level. Then under liquidity, the liquidity situation was almost near terms in 3 financial year. Now this company, the current ratio is 1:1.5. This quick asset ratio 1:1. But normally we accept 1:2 ratio. But if the industry average is around 1.5, we can conclude that is a good ratio. But anyway, quick asset ratio is will acceptable. 1:1 ratio is maintained. Therefore, no issue with regard to the liquidity. Then gearing, both gearing ratio 1 and gearing ratio 2, both are suggest that this is a low geared company. Now, this is very good point for banks to give further lending to this institute. If it is a low geared company, there is more room for borrowing, and that is a very plus point from the company's perspective if they want additional facilities. Then investor relation ratio, shareholder ratios such as dividend cover and earning per share are improving over the period. This is satisfactory, but what is important here is the amount of dividend paid. If you take the dividend per share, now here, dividend per share in 2014, 2 rupees per share. Now it has double, not only double, almost triple, 5 rupees per share in 2016. Now what we paid will go out of the company. Right? That this is reflected in the dividend cover ratio also. Now profits are increasing. That's why the EPS is increasing. But if you take this out of 4.93, we have paid 2 rupees. That is 50% of the profit. Now in this case, in 2016, 6.4 rupees earnings, we paid 5 rupees per share dividend. That is almost 75 to 80% of the profits as dividends. Therefore, now if the company wants to go for future, they have to retain something as retain earning, not declaring all the things. The shareholders will be very happy. If you pay higher and higher dividends, the shareholders are very happy. But from the company's perspective, if you are paying out 70 to 80% of your profits as dividends, then it's very difficult to grow. Now, when they want to grow, they will have to go for borrowings, right? But you know, ගොල්ලන්ගේ ගෙදර හිතන්නකො ජොබ් මොකක් හරි කඩයක් කරනවා කියලා කඩේ කරනකොට හම්බෙන ප්‍රොෆිට් එකම අරගෙන යනවා නම් අම්මයි ගෙදර ඉන්න අනිත් කට්ටියයි ඔක්කොම තාත්තට කඩේ ඉස්සරහට කරගෙන යන්න බැරි වෙනවා. right? දැන් අපි තුන් රෙස්ටෝරන්ට් එකක් දාලා තියෙනවා කියලා රෙස්ටෝරන්ට් එක දාලා ඉතින් හැමදාම අයියාගේ යාළුවෝයි අක්කාගේ යාළුවෝයි අම්මගේ යාළුවෝ ඇවිල්ලා කාලා නිකන් යනවා. ඒක තාත්තට මොකද කරන්න වෙන්නේ අන්තිමේට? ඒකේ රෙස්ටෝරන්ට් එක ඉස්සරහට අරගෙන යන්න කාගෙන් ණයට ගන්න වෙනවා. Likewise, now the dividend policy should be reviewed, right? Right. Then that is for investor relation. Then this is also very important. You have to write all of these in your answer sheet. Now this is risk analysis, right? Risk analysis. In terms of profitability, what we can conclude is there is we cannot say low risk. There is a medium risk, right? Medium risk because there were some declining trend in terms of GP and NP, but CE and ROE was very good and increasing. Therefore, we can conclude that as far as profitability is concerned, this company has a medium risk. Then liquidity also, since the current ratio is 1.5:1 and quick asset is 1:1, but we cannot say liquidity low risk, but we can say that also medium risk. Then definitely gearing, you can say low risk because low geared company, low risk, low geared company. Then shareholder benefits, we can say satisfactory. Because of medium profitability, liquidity, and declining interest cover, one has to exercise caution in considering further facilities. Because of high demand for the products of the company, one could expect profitability to increase. In such circumstances, fully secured further facilities could be considered favorably. Overall risk level of this company is ranging from lower to medium. We can consider further facilities. Overall conclusion also, you can say that you are in agreement to consider further facilities. Now in this company, if you take individual categories, the most of the categories say low or medium. Therefore, we can overall say this company, when it comes to considering new facilities, we have a medium or low risk in terms of considering new facilities. That is our overall conclusion. Then the next question, that is for question number 1, that is for 20 marks, 15 for ratio calculation, and this question 5 marks. For these sections, 5 marks will be allocated, right? Therefore, you have to write very comprehensively to the point, whatever the important thing as far as risk analysis is concerned. Then next part, they are asked structuring of new facilities. There were 2 requirements, that is 10 million for 10 million, no? Yes, 10 million for additional machinery and additional working capital 5 million. Altogether 5 million requirement, 15 million requirement is there. Now, if you take the structuring, we have several options. Option number 1, I am going to explain. The current existing limits 80 million and 10 million. The existing limit, total limit is 90 million. The present outstanding is 58 and 16 million for overdraft, which has already exceeded the existing limit of 10 million. Now, we are proposing within the current exposure, that is 90 million, within the 90 million exposure, we are proposing 3 new proposed limits. That is for term loan 59 million, which is the current outstanding, right? That can be accommodated with the current outstanding. 59 million term loan, a new overdraft, which is 16 million, which is also in line with the present outstanding. Then additional new loan for 15 million, right? Then altogether 90 million exposure is there. That is one option, structuring the new facilities and the current requirement of 15 million, accommodating that also. This is the first option. Similarly, we can propose another option, that is, I'll explain the option number 1. Considering the existing approved limit of the term loan 80 million, since the balance in the loan is less than the approved limit of by 18 million, reduce the limit to 59 million. Consider new loan of 15 million repayable in 2 years for the current requirement and increase the OD limit to 16 million and ensure that the company operate below the limit. That is our option number 1. Then this is our option number 2. This is also within the current exposure, that is 90 million. Propose a new loan of 80 million and using the proceeds of 80 million loan, right, that is 80 million loan, you can repay the 58 million outstanding and 16 million outstanding currently we have, that is altogether 74 million. Then you are left with 6 million, which can be used for working capital requirement. And out of the 90 million, we have used 80 million. There is another 10 million limit. For that 10 million, propose a lease facility for 2 machineries that they require. And with the 10 million, they can purchase the, using that lease facility, they can take that 10 million requirement. This is the second option. We'll explain that second option also. The company has approved limit of 90 million. Consider a new loan facility for 80 million, amount payable, repayable in 3 or 4 years. Recover the term loan and the overdraft fully. The balance could be used. Balance is 6 million. After paying the 58 million and 16 million overdraft. The balance could be utilized for working capital requirement. A lease facility to be used to purchase the machinery by mortgaging the asset. Right. I have option number 3 also. Right. This is taking into account the new valuation report. The original valuation report is what is the original valuation report? It is 150, right? 60%, that is 90% exposure. The new valuation report is 170 million, right? If you take same exposure level, that is 60% of the 170, you have a new limit of 102 million. That is an increase of 12 million from the existing limit of 90 million. Right. Using this limit, I am proposing a new term loan, 90 million, right? A new term loan of 90 million, which you can use to recover the original term loan and the overdraft. Then you are left with 90 million means 74, means 16 million you are left, right? After paying the original loan and the overdraft, you are left here using this 90 million, 16 million, right? Which you can use for the 2 machineries and the working capital requirement. And we are proposing 2 additional facilities also, that is packing credit facilities if it is needed, since this is an export-oriented company. Then an overdraft of 2 million, if it is, if the client wants, they can use that. That is the option number 3. We'll explain that option also. The new value of the property 170 million, mortgage value at 60% will be 102 million. Approve a new term loan of 90 million, recover the existing loan amount of 58 million and OD of 16 million. Out of the balance, allow the company to purchase machinery 10 million and working capital 5 million. The balance of the limit offer a packing credit facility of 10 million and overdraft facility of 2 million to be used if needed. Right. That is for question number 2. Then question number 3, they say, suggest your recommendation to the management of MS Fashion Apparel Limited to enhance the financial position without requesting additional facilities. right? Now you are not going to ask for additional facilities. You consider whatever the other options you have to accommodate your requirement, that is 15 million, right? Now the first suggestion is, now I have already talk about this. The company was paying higher dividend in financial years 15 and 16. The company may pay dividend similar to 2013, by which about 40 million can be saved, which could be used to reduce the credit facilities. Now, දැන් මේ පළවෙනි එක ගත්තොත් මේක අපිට මේ ප්‍රොපෝසල් එකක් කරන්න මේක ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න බෑ හේතුව we have already declared the dividends. But in future the company can say now 2014 2 rupee ගෙවපු එක 2016 වල 5 rupee වලට වැඩි කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒතර නිකන් හරිය අපි 2 rupeeම ගෙවුවා නම් දිගටම 8 million තියෙන නිසා 2014 වල 4 rupee ගෙවලා තියෙනවා. ඒතකොට ඩබල් වෙලා තියෙනවා. එතන 16 million save කරගන්න තිබ්බා. ඊළඟට 2016 වල 2 rupeeම ගෙවුවා නම් එතන 24 million save කරගන්න. ඒතකොට 16 උයි මෙතන මේ 40 million හැදෙන්නේ කෙනෙකුට අහන්න පුළුවන් ඒ කොහොමද 40 million හැදෙන්නේ කියලා. 40 million හැදෙන්නේ රුපියල් අපි ගාව කොටස් තියෙනවා 8 million. රුපියල් දෙක ගානේ තමයි 2014 ගෙවලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒතර 15 වෙදී රුපියල් 4 ගානේ ගෙවන්නේ නැතුව රුපියල් 2 ගානේම ගෙවුවා නම් එක කොටසකට රුපියල් 2 ගානේ සේව් කරගන්න තිබ්බා. ඒතකොට 2 ගානේ කොටස් 8 million තියෙනවා. ඒතර 16 million සේව් කරගන්න තිබ්බා 2015 වලදී. එතකොට 16 වලත් රුපියල් 2 ගානේ ගෙවුවා නම් 16 වල අපි ගෙවලා තියෙනවා 5 ගාන කොටසකට. රුපියල් 2 ගානේ දෙවුවා නම් කොටසකට රුපියල් 3ක් සේව් කරගන්න තිබ්බා. ඒතර රුපියල් 3 ගානේ කොටස් මිලියන 8ක් තියෙන නිසා රුපියල් මිලියන 24ක් සේව් කරගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතර 15 දී සහ 16 දී 14 ගෙවුව රුපියල් 2 ගානෙම ගෙවුවා නම් මිලියන 40ක් අපිට සේව් කරගන්න තිබ්බා. මිලියන 40 සේව් කරගත්තා නම් අපිට ඇත්තටම මේ banking facilities reduce කරගන්න තිබ්බා. දැන් ඒක හැබැයි කතා කරලා වැඩක් නැහැ. Now we have already declared the dividends, right? But that is a kind of a proposal. If they thought in beforehand, they could have implemented this thing. Then option number 2, the company could consider a debenture issue of say 50 million. And now we are proposing things that without going for a bank loan, what we can do. The company could consider for a debenture issue of say 50 million at rate of lower than the bank borrowing rate because of the company's dividend policy and the demand for brand name. One could expect full subscription, right? හැබැයි මේ දෙවෙනි ඔප්ෂන් එක කරනවා නම් අර බැංක් ලෝන් එකට වඩා අඩු රේට් එකකට ඩිබෙන්චර් එක යවන්න අපිට කෝල් කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඩිබෙන්චර් ඔප්ෂන් එක බලලකේ තේරුමක් නැහැ. Right. Option number 3, the company's debtors collection period is almost 1 month. We may have to offer discount for early payments, which may reduce the profit. A reduction in collection period may not be viable option. Now, අපේ debtors ලා ගත්තොත් එimhe කීයක් ඉන්නවද බලන්න debtors ලා. current assets වල debtors ලා තියෙනවා මිලියන දැනට තියෙනවා 42ක් තියෙනවා මේ අන්තිම අවුරුද්දේ. ඒතර මේ මිලියන 42කින් අපිට ටිකක් වේලාසන කරලා මාසයක් ඉන්නේ නැතුව අපිට ටිකක් වේලාසනින් ගත්තොත් ඔය මිලියන 42කින් අපිට අපි හිතන්නකො මිලියන 10ක් ගෙන්න ගත්තත් අපි OD එක අඩු කරගන්න පුළුවන්. අපේ requirement එකට යන්න පුළුවන් එක option එකක් හැටියට තමයි එකක් කියන්නේ. You take the another option, the net asset value per share of the company. Net asset value කියලා කියන්නේ equity කියන එක. equity එක රුපියල් 17.42ක්ලු net asset value per share. කොහොමද අපි ඒක හැදුවේ? 139.4 බෙදුවා 8ෙන්. 8 කියලා කියන්නේ 8 million ordinary shares. 139.4 කියන්නේ කීයද? මොකද්ද? 139.4 කියලා කියන්නේ අපේ equity ගාන. ඉතින් equity සමානයි net assets වලට. net assets කියලා කියන්නේ total asset minus liabilities. total assets තියෙනවා 252ක් 252කින් අඩු කරාම liabilities ඒ කියන්නේ මේ 58000යි 54000යි අඩු කරාට පස්සේ උත්තරේ තමයි net asset ඒ කියන්නේ equity වලට සමානයි. එතකොට net asset value per share 139,400 divided by 8 million. ඒක රුපියල් 17,742ක්. අපේ එක ෂෙයා එකක් වටිනවා රුපියල් 17,742ක්. Directors may issue 6 million shares at 16 rupees million 6ක් shares රුපියල් 16 ගන්න මොකද 100 රුපියල් 17ක් වටිනවනේ ෂෙයා එක. And realize 96 million. The proceeds of the issue may be used to meet the present requirement and settle all the facilities. එහෙම share issue එකකට යන්න පුළුවන් නම් අපිට පුළුවන් මේ ඔක්කොම facilities ටික settle කරන්න. But the problem is the directors should give their consent. මොකද directors ලානේ මේවට contribute කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ ගාව සල්ලි තියෙන්න ඕනේ ඉස්සෙල්ලා. The proceeds of the issue may be used to meet the present requirement and settle all the facilities. This may reduce the finance expenses, but the company must enhance profit at least by 12 million to meet the additional dividend of 2 rupees per share on newly issued shares. So, shares issue කරොත් එම මිලියන 6ට රුපියල් 2 ගානේ dividend එක ගෙවුවා. දැන් හැබැයි ගෙවන්නේ රුපියල් 5 ගානේ 2 ගානේ ගෙවුවොත් ඒ මිලියන 12කින් profits වැඩි කරගන්න ඕනේ. It must also be noted that the directors must be willing to contribute the capital as it is a private company. Then final proposal, because of high demand for company's products and in case of confirmed orders, the company may request advance payment for orders. This may reduce the bank borrowing. මේ company එකේ මේ butterfly කියන product එකට ගන්න කියනවා ගොඩක් demand එක තියෙනවා කියලා. ඒකට ඒගොල්ලන්ට පුළුවන් බඩු විමනකම් ඉන්නේ නැතුව ඇඩ්වාන්ස් එකක් ගෙන්න ගන්න. 10 million 20 million ඇඩ්වාන්ස් එකක් ගෙන්න ගත්තා නම් අපිට අපේ මේ වැඩේ කරගන්න පුළුවන්. That is another option. Right. එතකොට මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි මේ පළවෙනි ප්‍රශ්නේ ඉවරයි. දෙවෙනි ප්‍රශ්නෙට යන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා ඔයගොල්ලෝගේ මොන හරි ගැටලු තියෙනවද? දෙවෙනි ප්‍රශ්නෙට යන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා. ඔහොම තමයි උත්තර ලියන්න ඕනේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට. මුලින්ම ratios ටික calculate කරන්න ඕනේ. ඊළඟට summary එකක් අපි හදන්න ඕනේ. ඊළඟට එක එක ratios ගැන interpret කරන්න ඕනේ. ඊළඟට risk analysis එක කරන්න ඕනේ. ඊළඟට final risk conclusion එකක් දෙන්න ඕනේ. ඊළඟට structuring කරන්න ඕනේ කොහොමද අපි දෙන options කියලා. right මොන හරි ගැටලු තියෙනවද ඔයගොල්ලන්ට? දෙවෙනි ප්‍රශ්නේ පටන් ගන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා.
සර් මේ ටික කරන්න කොච්චර ටයිම් එකක් allocate වෙනවද අපිට?
ලකුණු 30ක් ඉඳ පැයක් තමයි තියෙන්නේ. දැන් පේපර් එකේ ඇති නේද වෙලාවක්? දෙන්න බලන්න. මොකද මේක එක මොඩල් එකක් විතරනේ. පේපර් එකේ මුල නැන්ද වෙලාව දෙන්න.
ටයිම් එකක් නෑ බලන්න. ටයිම් එකක් නෑ.
ඔව් පැය 3ක්නේ පේපර් එකේ. එතකොට පැය 3ට ලකුණු 100 බෙදා ගන්න. ඒතර සාමාන්‍ය ලකුණු 28ක් 30ක් කියලා කියන්නේ පැයක් විතර වගේ ආසන්න ගන්න.
Thank you sir.
ඔව්. වෙන මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද?
Hello, sir. How do you
Yes.
consider how do you decide the tenor for new proposed facility?
That is not a big thing as far as this particular sum is concerned, but normally you may consider 3 or 4 years time period. What is now if you take this proposal, we should worry about the amount, not the tenor. And the collateral that you, not only the tenor, you may also can ask what about the collateral, right? Those things that is not a big issue as far as AM is concerned. Those are kind of a credit evaluation in terms of more or less credit related thing. Here you should worry about the more or less the figures. The number you can only worry about, don't worry about the tenor. normally if it is that is a normal given thing, no? If it is a normal term loan, 3 or 4 years, that can be used.
Yes, understood, sir. Thank you.
Now, when now in line with the same question, when you are proposing different options, make sure those are viable options. ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ හිතේ තියෙන එක පාටම දාන්න එපා. මෙන්න මේවා මෙහෙම කරන හැම කියලා. Take now in this example we have this we have here we have viable options here taking into the new property, and the exposure we have a 102 million limit we can propose. The other side, the first two options, we are using the same limit. If it is viable, you can propose any kind of options. Any other questions? ඔයාලගේ හිතේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න ඔක්කොම අහලා ක්ලියර් කරගන්න. විභාගෙදි ක්ලියර් කරන්න තියාගන්න එපා. A model paper already been given. You can take it from the IBSL officials. And as far as exam is concerned, if you can practice these two sums that I am going to discuss, other than those formats, nothing will be discussed because I am the person who is going to prepare the question paper. No, ඒක නිසා මේ I model paper එකක් දීලා තියෙන්නේ දැනටම අපි මේ වලට IBSL official එකකින් ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඊට අමතරව මේක අපි කතා කරන question දෙකට විතරක් සීමා කරගන්න. ගොඩාක් ඒවා කරනවට වඩා මේ දෙක විතරක් ඔයගොල්ලෝ කරලා වුණ අර මොඩල් පේපර් එකේ ප්‍රශ්නෙත් අහලා ඉවරලා ඒක බලන්න. ඒ දෙක කරත් හොඳටම ඇති මේ විභාගේ පාස් වෙන්න. Right. We'll move to the next question. That is 2016 May question. We'll first read out the sum. Any other questions? Right, okay. You are the credit officer of Alliance Bank PLC. MS Alpha Business Solutions Limited is one of the leading suppliers of software solutions for local and export market and a prime customer of your bank. It maintains a satisfactory current account at your bank with an average balance of LKR 10 million. At present, it also enjoys the following credit facilities: term loan overdraft, approved limit is 100 million, and the current outstanding 62 million 31st March 2016. For term loan overdraft 26 million overdraft, you can see there is an excess. MS Alpha Business Solution has plans to expand its business. Recently, the company had signed 3 contracts, 2 of which are from overseas clients, to deliver software solution within the next 6 months. In order to meet this requirement, the company has to purchase 6 computers and recruit experienced staff. The company requires additional facility of 10 million to meet the working capital requirements. The Chief Financial Officer, MS Alpha Business Solution, had approached your bank for additional facilities to meet their requirement. You as the credit officer had requested for the income statement and the financial position statement of the company for the years ending 31st March 2014, 31st March 2015 and 2016. The summarized audited results for 2014, 2015 and the unaudited results of 2016 is given below. Unaudited point, you have to make a note of it. 2016 figures are not yet been audited. Right. The income statement, all figures in 1000, and the balance sheet they have given. Right. Note. Work in progress is the cost of the work performed, not invoice. Right. When it comes to work in progress, we have to take that is the cost, not the amount invoice. You are also given the following additional information. Number one, you may assume the trade receivables and trade payable balances reflected in the balance sheet are average balances. Right. You may use year-end figures in the financial position statement for computation of ratios. Right. The company has issued 6 million ordinary shares, and the market price is also given 2014, 15, 16, and they have asked, they have given the ratios, about 12 ratios you have to calculate. 18 marks were allocated, that is for ratio computation. And here very specifically say, you may use year-end figures in the financial position statement for computation of ratios. Therefore, no need to take average figures and no need to worry about the year beginning, year ending figures. Just take the balance sheet figures as average figures in the ratio calculations. So, make පැහැදිලිවම කියලා තියෙනවා ගානේ year end figures use කරන්න කියලා balance sheet එකේ තියෙනීමට ඒව average figures හැටියට consider කරලා. Question number 2, based on the results of the ratios computed under one above, state briefly comment on the financial analysis and report position and ratio computation. Only 18 marks given and the interpretation, 5 marks for this position. Then structuring under part 3, for structuring they have allocated another 5 marks. Describe the type of facilities you may recommend. Right. We'll go to the calculations. Any questions up to now? Anything to clarify? කෙනෙක් කියලා තිනවා ඇහෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. අනිත් කට්ටියටත් එහෙමද? අනිත් කට්ටියට ඇහෙනවද?
No, okay, sir.
Alright, okay. එහෙම disturbance තිබුණාද කලින්? මේ ඇහෙන්න නැතුව තිබ්බද?
Yes.
Alright, okay. Right, we'll move on to the question. This is 2016 May question. Now, question itself says the ratios that we have to calculate, that is gross profit ratio, net profit ratio, return on equity, return on capital employed, current ratio, quick asset ratio, gearing ratio 2, earning per share, dividend per share, earnings yield and dividend yields. Right. Therefore, we have to be very focused on calculating those ratios. Don't calculate other ratios because the question itself asks about the ratios for you to calculate. Right, first one is the gross profit ratio, very easy to calculate. Take the gross profit from the question, gross profit in the income statement. Here, 156,000, 248,000, 322,000, right? Then next item is the sales. Sales also I am getting it directly from the income statement. 450,000, 670,000 and 890,000. Right. Then divide your gross profit by sales and into 100. The answers are 34%, 37% and 36%. 34%, 37% and 36%. No need to waste any time. හැබැයි මම මෙහෙමත් කිව්වට සමහර මම දන්නේ ඒක සමහරට පන්ති වලට එන්නේ නැති කට්ටිය දන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ සමහරලාට රේෂියෝ කැල්කියුලේෂන් එකේ gross profit කියන නම විතරක් දාලා නිකන් තියෙන කට්ටියක් ඉන්නවා. right? ඒගොල්ලෝ exam එක pass වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක සාධාරණයි. Right. We'll move on to the next category, that is net profit ratio. How do you calculate net profit after tax divided by sales into 100? Go to your question paper. Net profit after tax. What is your net profit after tax? 29,000, 55,000 and 56,000. 29,000, 55,000 and 56,000. Sales you have already taken in the first ratio calculation also. 450, 670, 890. Divide your net profit by sales into 100. Then you have answers: 2014, 6.44%, 15, 8.21%, 16, a decline of and 6.29%. 6.29%. Right. Any questions? I don't think, do you have any questions? These are very easy to calculate ratios. Then next ratio, the examiner asks return on equity, right? Return on equity. Now here the point is, return on equity, how do you calculate? You have to take the net profit after tax, divided it by average equity. Average equity. But here, since the examiner very clearly say no need to take average figures, because in order to calculate the average figure, some points are not given. That is one thing, and instead he said take the year-end balances as average figures and calculate the ratios. Therefore, no need to worry about the average figures. You take net profit after tax. This is net profit after tax, right? Very straightforward one. Then equity capital, go to your balance sheet. What is your equity capital? Stated capital plus reserves. These are the equity capitals. Here, total equity 108, 136, 156. 108, 136, 156. No need to take average figures because you are not in a position to calculate the average figures. And the examiner also emphasized the fact that instead of average figures, use the year-end figures. Therefore, net profit after tax divided by equity capital as at year-end. Then you have answers for 2014, 27%, 2015, 40%, again 2016, 36%. Any questions? Any questions? Right, okay. We'll move on. The next ratio examiner asks about return on capital employed. Return on capital employed. Here, you have to take first net profit before tax and before interest. In the question paper itself, in the income statement, it is given profit before interest and tax. These figures you have to take 54,000, 95,000, 114,000. Don't waste time. Now I have put additional step, but you can directly take these figures. I no need to write the first two lines, net profit before tax and interest. That is unnecessary. If the figures are directly given from the income statement, you can take that figure directly, right? Net profit before tax and interest is directly given in the income statement. Then in order to calculate the capital employed, you need to have equity capital and long-term debt capital. Equity capital, in the previous calculation, you have already taken the figures. Then when it comes to long-term debt, go to your balance sheet. What are the long-term debts you have? Now, if you take the long-term debts, what you have only the term loan, and take the term loan, 30,000, 78,000, 62,000. 30,000, 78,000, 62,000. Then you have total capital employed, equity capital plus long-term capital. Then you have long-term total capital employed, and divide the net profit before tax and before interest figure by total capital employed, and you can have the return on capital employed figures. That is 39%, 44%, and 52%. Right. Any questions? Right. We'll move on to the next ratio. This is interest cover. How do you calculate net profit before tax and before interest? Current figure before tax and before interest divided by interest. Divided by interest. Net profit before tax and before interest. මේකෙදි මම මේ වැඩිපුර රූල් දෙකක් දාලා තියෙනවා. මේ ෆිගර් එක කෙලින්ම ගන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලයින් තුනකින්ම ඉවර කරන්න පුළුවන් කැල්කියුලේෂන් එක. මේක කෙලින්ම තියෙනවනේ PN එකකින් ගන්න පුළුවන්. මේක එකින්ද එක කෙලින්ම ගන්න මේ ෆිගර් එක. Right? Divided by interest. The number of times 3 times 2014, 3.39 times 2015, 2016, 2.71 times. 2.71 times. Any questions? ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා අහන්න පුළුවන්. කවුරුරි මයික් එක ඔන් කරගෙන අහන්න ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. Now, out of 30 marks, you can get 30 out of 30 very easily. මේක කොහෙද අමාරු කියලා වෙල කාටද කියන්න පුළුවන් නම් මේ ratio calculations මේ කරන ගානේ කාටවත් කියන්න බෑ කොහෙද අමාරු කියලා. කොහොම very straightforward. If you have follow my instructions, you can get easily 30 out of 30. Okay? And it will be the kind of a point or score. You can easily get a very good passing mark, even a merit pass in your this credit management exam. Right. Since there is no questions, we'll move on. We'll move to the current ratio. According to the examiner, he has requested to calculate gross profit, net profit, return on equity, return on capital employed. Now, current ratio and quick asset ratio. Right. Current ratio, current assets. Go to your balance sheet. You have current assets here. 41,000, 66,000 and 86,000. Then current liabilities, go to your balance sheet again, current liabilities, 23,000, 32,000 and 44,000. Right. Then divide your current assets by current liabilities. Then you have for 2014 as a proportion 1 is to 1.78. In 2015, 1 is to 2.06. In 2016, your current ratio is 1 is to 1.95. It's almost near norms, that is 1 is to 2. Very good current ratio. Then next ratio is quick asset ratio. You have to remove the from the current assets. You have to remove the inventories in the balance sheet. You can find out now here work in progress you can remove. Instead of taking inventory, the work in progress is kind of an inventory, right? Under inventory, you have 3 categories of goods, that is raw material, work in progress and finished goods. All are called inventories, right? In this question paper, work in progress you can take as inventories, 20,000, 34,000 and 42,000. You deduct from the current assets the work in progress or the inventory, 20,000, 34,000, 42, and you have quick assets, divided it by current liabilities. Then you have results of 1 is to 0.91, 1 is to 1, 1 is to 1. That is also acceptable and in line with the acceptable norms. Any questions? Current ratio, quick asset ratio, very easy to calculate. ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද? Right. Then gearing ratio 1 and gearing ratio 2. Right. Right. Yes. Gearing ratio and gearing ratio 2. Right. First ratio. A few minutes ago we calculated for the previous sum, gearing ratio. There we take equity capital and the long-term debt capital. Equity capital and the long-term debt capital. Divided the long-term debt capital by equity capital. Here, long-term debt capital, you have only got your balance sheet. Under non-current assets, you have term loan only. 30,000, 78,000 and 62,000. Right? Then your equity capital, go to the balance sheet, equity capital, you have 108,000, 136 and 156. Right. Then divide your long-term capital by equity capital. Then if it is less than 1, you can say it is a low-geared company. Low-geared company. Now you can see 2014.28, 2015.57, 2016.4. All are below 1. Therefore, you can conclude that is a low-geared capital structure company. Then gearing ratio 2. In the gearing ratio 2, you take long-term debt capital plus the short-term debt capital, especially the facilities you take on short-term basis from the banks, short-term facilities, total debt capital divided by total capital. Total debt capital divided by total capital. We will go to the balance sheet and we can see what are the short-term debt facilities under this particular sum, we have only the bank overdraft. For the term loan, you can add bank overdraft in order to calculate the total debt capital, right? Here, long-term debt capital 30,000, 78,000, 60,000, that is bank loan. Then short-term debts, you take bank overdraft, that is 11,000, 18,000, and 26,000. Then your total debt capital is 41,000, 96, and 86 respectively for 3 years. Then you have equity capital, and you can take the total capital as well. What you do is total debt capital divided by total capital. Total debt capital divided by total capital. If it is less than 0.5, we can conclude that is a low geared company. In this case, all 3 years, the ratio is less than 0.5, 0.28, 0.41, and 0.36. Less than 0.5. Right. Any questions? Gearing ratio? මොනහරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද gearing ratio සම්බන්ධයෙන්? Right. Then next ratios are related to investor relation, earning per share, dividend per share, and earnings yield and dividend yields. Right. We'll move on. Earning per share, net profit after tax divided by number of ordinary shares. Net profit after tax, straight away you can take from the P&L, net profit after tax. That is 29,000, 55,000, and 56,000. And number of ordinary shares, they said in the notes, we have 6 million ordinary shares outstanding from the inception, right? The 29,000, 59, 55,000, 66,000, 56,000 divided by 6 million ordinary shares in all 3 years. So to make it ආයි මතක් කරනවා 6 million ගන්නකොට මේක 1000 වලින් උඩ ෆිගර් එක තියෙන ඉඳන් මෙතන ඒක 1000 කළා දාන්න ඕනේ 0.3ක් අයින් කරලා. එහෙම නැත්නම් උඩ ෆිගර් එකත් 0.3ක් දාගන්න ඕනේ යට ෆිගර් එකටත් 0.3ක් දාගන්න. ඒක ඔළුවේ තියාගන්න. Then your earning per share is 4.4 rupees and 83 cents 2014, 9 rupees and 17 cents 2015, 9 rupees and 33 cents in 2016. Earning per share. Then dividend per share, total dividend divided by again the number of ordinary shares. In 2014, 3 rupees per share. 2015, 4.5 rupees per share. 2016, 6 rupees per share. Now they have doubled their dividend per share after 2 years, right? Meaning you have now in 2014, you have earning per share of 4 rupees and 83, whereas you declare only 3 rupees, right? But in 2016, 9 rupee earning per share, whereas you declare 6 rupee dividend per share, right? From the perspective of shareholders, they are very lucky and they are very happy. But from the point of view of the company, they want to expand, the increasing of dividend per share at an alarming percentage will not satisfy the course of business of the company, because they definitely, if they have declared the dividend, their funds have been taken in from the companies to the shareholders. Therefore, when the funding requirement comes, company will have to go for outside borrowings. Then earnings yield. How do you calculate earnings yield? Earning per share divided by market price per share into 100. This is a kind of a investment percentage. The market price is the investment of a shareholder. That is their investment per share. Their investment is the market price, and earning is the return, right? Against your investment, what is the return? Now, if you take a shareholder, a potential investor, if he want to buy a share of this company, he has to invest 18 rupees in 2014. Whereas the return he get is 4.83 per share, earning per share. Therefore, the investment return is for a share investment of this company 2014, 26%, 27%. Now it has increased to 38% or 39% in 2016. 24 rupees investment, they have earned 9.33. That is a very good return. It's almost within 2 years you can get the initial investment. රුපියල් 24ක් ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරාම 2016 ෂෙයා එකක් ගන්න මේ කම්පැනි රුපියල් 933ක් earn කරලා තියෙන මේ කම්පැනි එක. ඒකට අපේ මේ ෂෙයා එකේ ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් එකට අවුරුදු දෙකමාරක් යනකොට සම්පූර්ණ ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් එකම කවර් කරගන්න පුළුවන්. 38% is a very good investment return. Similarly, the dividend yield, dividend compared with the market price. Dividend per share divided by market price into 100. The dividend හැටියට අපි බැලුවොත් එහෙම අපේ return එක කීයද? අපේ investment එක තමයි 24, dividend හැටියට 6ක් හම්බෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒකට 125ක return එක. ඒතර අවුරුදු 4ක් යනකොට අපේ initial investment එක cover කරගන්න පුළුවන්. That is called dividend yield. Right. Now we have computed all the requested ratios by the examiner. Any questions up to now? මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද මේ දක්වා කතා කරපු ඒවා? අපි interpretations and the final conclusion and structuring before we start. Right, we'll then move on. This is the summary of profitability ratios that we have computed. Gross profit, net profit, and ROE, ROCE, and interest cover. We can see a kind of a small decline in terms of gross profit and net profit in 2016 compared to 2015, but by and large, it is well within the range. Very low net profit ratio compared to the GP. That is, operational expenses should be in a high end. That's why for 100 rupee you have a GP of 36, but whereas for 100 rupee you have a 6% of NP. 6% is a very low in terms of NP ratio, but they have to worry about these cost control mechanisms. And ROE and ROCE very good, very attractive. There was a decline, but now it's okay. Interest cover also there is a small decline, but it's well within the range. Then liquidity and gearing ratios. Liquidity almost near terms, well acceptable, within the range. Standardized liquidity ratios, current ratio and quick asset ratios. They fulfill the requirement what is needed. Then gearing ratio, all two ratios says this is a low geared company. Therefore, there is a much room for further borrowings. Very positive sign from the company's point of view for further borrowings. They are much dependent on the equity capital than the debt capital. Therefore, there is a vast area of room for further borrowings. Then investor relation satisfactory investor relation ratio, but there is a concern as far as the dividend per share is concerned. They have doubled the dividend per share. That is that means they have not retained much for their consumption, the company's benefit. Bulk is declared as dividend. That is not good, but earnings yield, dividend yield is very attractive and increasing. Now, if I dictate about the trend analysis in terms of profitability, it may be seen that GP, net profit, ROE, and interest cover ratios increase in 2015 but decline in 16. It may be attributable to the fact that expenses increased by 1.35% compared to the increase in gross profit by 1.25% over the previous years. However, ROCE recorded an increase over the 3-year period. Then when it comes to liquidity situation was almost near norms in the 3 financial period. No need to worry about the liquidity. Then gearing ratio 1 is below 1 and 2 is below 0.5. Both ratios decline over the financial year 2015. Investor relations, shareholder ratios such as earning per share, dividend per share are improving over the period, which is satisfactory. Although both earnings yield and dividend yields improve in 2015, both decline in financial year 2016 due to increase in market prices as at 31st March 2016. When it comes to risk analysis and conclusion, profitability, we can say a medium risk because of lower net profit ratio. You cannot say low risk in terms of profitability because the profitability net profit ratio is not that much attractive. 6% is very low. Therefore, we can say there is no high risk, but we have a medium risk in compared to the previous years, and in terms of profitability we have a kind of a medium risk situation. Liquidity, definitely we can say low risk, and gearing also we can definitely say low risk because all ratios are below 1 and 0.5. Then shareholder benefits we can say satisfactory. Therefore, further facilities can be considered favorably. In conclusion, we can say a medium or low risk company for to consider facilities. However, we must obtain the audited financial statement for the year 2016 before releasing the funds of approved facility. Now, these figures are we have taken from the management account. The 2016 figures have not been audited yet. Therefore, we can put a condition saying that before disbursing the facility, we can do the analysis, approving everything we can do based on the financials provided. It will take some time to get them audited, but before releasing the funds, we have to take the audited financial figures and confirm our figures are in line with the audited financial figures. Get the independent opinion from the auditors. That is a condition you can post in your answer sheet also. Before you release in the these disbursements, you have to take audited financial statements for 2016. Then that's it for the second part. Then we'll move on to the third part, that is structuring of facilities. Now, if you take the first option I have described here, Current limit is 100 million existing limit, and present outstanding for term loan is 62 and overdraft 26. We propose a new loan that is 80 million and 20 million for overdraft. Out of this 80 million, you can repay the original term loan 62 million outstanding. Then you are left with 18 million. Out of that 18 million, 6 million can also be used to repay the overdraft or reduce the outstanding OD by 8 million, so that it will be within the limit. Balance 10 million can be used for the requirement. That is option number 1. Option number 1. Then I have explained it here also. Consider the existing approved limit of term loan 80 million. Since the balance in the loan is less than the approved limit by 18 million, consider a new loan of rupees 80 million repayable in 3 or 4 years. Recover the existing outstanding of 62 million. Allow the company to utilize 10 million to purchase the computers and reduce the OD by 8 million and bring below the limit, right? Then I have a second option. It is also described here also. Consider a new loan facility of 62 million to meet the current outstanding. Increase the OD limit to limit by 18 million. Increase the original approved limit. The company can lease the computers and meet the lease rentals from the increased OD facility and use this facility to meet the working capital requirement. We'll see that option also, right? Now we'll bring down the existing term loan limit to 62 million in line with the present outstanding, that is 62 million. Then we are left with 38 million under the current exposure. We can increase the OD limit to 38 million. By doing so, you have an increased OD limit of 18 million. Using the OD limit, the leasing of computers, you can use the balance 12 million in excess to meet the working capital requirement. Basically, by having 38 million OD facility, the company can use for the working capital requirements, and it is well within the current OD limit of 26 million. That is option number 2. And these are additional things. Since 2 of the contracts signed are from overseas clients, we could request the supplier to open letters of credit to your bank and consider granting facilities against them, right? That is another option. Then the directors may consider to expand the business considering the overseas opportunities. Consider the company going for 1 million share issue, rupees 20 approximately 20 million may be used to meet the present requirement. Reduce the OD limit within the limits and at lower cost. Those are the kind of options we can propose, out of which the examiner requires only one option, right? You need not to say the option number 1, option number 2. You can only say one option for this particular question. Examiner wants only only one option. You will get allocated the marks if you elaborate only one option only. Right. Any questions? මොනහරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න පුළුවන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට. I will ask the IBS official to upload the 2 answer sheets and the model paper I have given. Everything will be uploaded in your Google Classroom. Any other question? Anything other than these things? Anything? We have spent 4 sessions. Out of the 4 sessions, any question relating to those things discussed in the 4 sessions? එහෙම නැත්නම් වෙන මොන හරි ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න අහන්න පුළුවන්. එක්සෑම් එක සම්බන්ධයෙන්.
දැන් මේ 2016 papers නේ අද කරේ අපිට අනිත් අවුරුදු වල papers එහෙමත් අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් විදිහ කරන්න පොඩ්ඩක් practice කරන්න.
පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයා ගත්තොත් එහෙම 60 මේ කරපු ස්ට්‍රක්චර් එකම තමයි හැම පේපර් එකේම තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් මගේ රික්වයර්මන්ට් එක තමයි මමනේ පේපර් එක හදන්නේ. ඒකට මගේ රික්වයර්මන්ට් එක තමයි මේ අපි කරපු જાතිය ප්‍රශ්න දෙකක් තියෙනවානේ. ඒ දෙක කරොත් හොඳටම ඇති කියන එක තමයි මගේ රික්වයර්මන්ට් එක. ඕන තරම් ගන්න පුළුවන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට පේපර්ස්. IBSL එක කතා කරලා බලන්න මේ මේනකට කවින්දට කතා කරලා බලන්න ඒගොල්ලෝ ගාව තියෙනවා ගන්න පුළුවන්.
Thank you sir.
මේ ප්‍රශ්න දෙක උත්තර දෙකත් එක්ක කම්පෙයාර් කර ඔයගොල්ලෝ හදලා උත්තර ටික ලියා ගන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒ හොඳටම ප්‍රමාණවත්. ඔය ෆෝමැට් එකෙන් එළියට ප්‍රශ්න යන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි ඔයගොල්ලෝගේ සෙෂන්ස් 4ක් කතා කරන්නේ ඊවේ කතා කරපු හැම දෙයක්ම බලාගන්න. හැම දෙයකින් ඕන විදිහකට ප්‍රශ්න එන්න පුළුවන්. right? අපි කතා කරන්නේ ඔය මේ accounting සම්බන්ධ දේවල් කතා කරා. ඊළඟට requirements කතා කරා. solvency test ගැන කතා කරා. financial statements කියලා කියන්නේ මොනවද කියලා කතා කරා. ඒ වගේ දේවල් කතා කරා. මේ හැම දෙයක්ම notes ඔක්කොම දීලා තියෙනවා. presentations 4ක් දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒක ඔක්කොම බලාගන්න. ඒ එරුණාම මේ අපි කතා කරපු format එකට අමතරව වෙන structural changes ගොඩාක් ලොකුට වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Thank you sir.
තව කාට හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද? Right, if you don't have any Sir, are we getting a similar question in every paper? I already answered that question. The format, there is no difference. The 2 questions I have discussed, those are the basic format, but here and there can be 2 marks, kind of a theoretical question. 2 or 3 marks theoretical questions can be there. Other than that, basic format is the same. If you don't have anything to clarify, then I will wish for the exam and take your time. Take this question as the first question and allocate time and make sure that you get the 30 marks out of 30 and you are in a position to do that. And I wish all the very best, all of you. And even though we physically didn't meet, if you do have anything to verify, you can contact IBSL official and get my numbers, and if you want to contact. Other than that, I don't have anything to say. Then we'll adjourn the lecture. Right? Thank you very much. Thank you for participation and thank you very much.
Can I get a contact number?
What that?
Can I get a contact number?
Contact number? You want my contact number?
Yes sir. If you
it's I'll put it here, no? In the chat box I have given my number in the chat box. You can go to there and take that. Right, any other thing? Right, then we'll say goodbye. Right, stay safe, do well your exam. මට ගොඩාක් chance එක දෙන්න ඔයගොල්ලෝ විභාගය ඔයගොල්ලෝම pass කරන්න. Right, try කරන්න එපා fail වෙන්න. මේ මට ලකුණක් හරි දෙන්න පුළුවන් විදිහට උත්තර ලියන්න කියලා තමයි ඉල්ලන්න තියෙන්නේ. කොටම එන pass mark එක ඔයගොල්ලෝ IBSL official ලකින් අහලා දැනගන්න. මම හිතන්නේ average එකක් ගන්න ඕනේ හැම එකකින්. right. ඉතින් 30ම ගත්තොත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට pass mark එක ගැන worry වෙන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. Right. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Right, okay.